Delaware County political news. It's a game changer. Hi and welcome to another episode of PA Voter Information Network. I am your host, Larry DeMarco, and today we are here with David Director. He is the head of the technical team for afewsteps.org. David, thank you for being a guest on PA Voter Information Network.
Thanks for inviting me.
If you haven't seen the first video with David Director, where he spoke about initiatives of afewsteps.org, please make sure you get a chance to see it. There's a lot of great informational stuff in there. Your organization recommends 7 steps to more sustainable living. Share them with us.
Okay, happy to. So there are lots of things that you see written about that people are supposed to do or ought to do or might do in order to do their part for the climate. And a lot of people find this very confusing. And also a lot of people will look at some of the suggestions and say, well, I can't do that. Our approach at A Few Steps is you do what you can and you don't upend your life in order to do it. But there are things that everybody can do. And so we like to offer this list of 7 things that people can choose from. Do any of them or all of them or something else instead. But the idea is here are places to get started in trying to improve your footprint on the planet, as it were, and make your house a little bit more environmentally friendly. So the first of our 7 things is to program your thermostat. Now, earlier we spoke about the idea of having a programmable thermostat. This is a device that turns the heat down colder at night, warmer in the morning, maybe colder in the daytime if you're off at work, and basically adjust the temperature of your house, the setting of your house, to when you're there and need the heat and when you're not there and don't need it. Because your house will use less energy if you don't heat it when you're not there. And so we always recommend that everybody have a programmable thermostat, multiples if you have multiple thermostats, and set them, and they're not hard to do. Basically every programmable thermostat has 4 settings, and they generally call them sleep, wake, leave, and return. So sleep is your bedtime at night, so that it can turn the heat down at night. You'll sleep better when it's cooler anyway. And wake is what time you get up in the morning. And there's a nice little bonus here on that wake, is that when the temperature rises in the morning and the heat comes on, that will wake you very gently. It's much better than an alarm clock, although I'm not suggesting you may not need your alarm clock. But it really makes it a lot easier to get up in the morning when the heat comes on to, sort of warm your body and get you ready for the day. And then leave and return. It's time you go out in the morning after you've got the kids off to school and whatever, and return in the evening. And you set those typically for weekdays and weekends. Some thermostats let you set it independently for each day. So that's programming your thermostat.
So there's more we can do. Second step, talk about green energy.
Okay, and that's really easy to do because it's something you do on a website. As you may know, in Pennsylvania law allows people to choose their energy supplier. That is to say, who it is that your local utility buys their electricity from. And when you choose an electricity supplier, you can choose from a variety of options. First is, and dirtiest, is conventional power, which is largely coal-powered in Pennsylvania. You can also choose renewable energy, and that can take several forms. The cheapest form of renewable energy is generally hydroelectric, or what they call hydropower. Let
me see if I understand what you're saying. When we have PECO's generally serving this area, but PECO says choose someone else for us to use, you can call and say, I want hydropower, and choose a hydropower company?
Yes, exactly. You can choose a hydropower company, you can choose a wind power company, you can choose solar power. And those come at different prices. And in some cases, you can actually buy solar or wind power that's generated right here in Pennsylvania. And then when you do that, you are subsidizing jobs in Pennsylvania. You are taking your energy dollars and you are directing those to a company that works in Pennsylvania and creates jobs for Pennsylvanians. So you can do that, and we like to suggest, among others, the Energy Co-op is one place where you can sign up for renewable energy. But you can find others as well. And the way you do this is you go to papowerswitch.com, and that is the official website that allows you to sign up with a different energy supplier. If you don't switch, you buy your power from PECO, and they buy it from whoever they buy it from.
Which is the worst thing to do?
Well, it's the least, it is the choice that you're not making.
Okay.
So that will be, a good bit of it will be coal by default. That's the way the power market works in Pennsylvania. But you can buy hydropower, which will be marked as renewable, 100% renewable power, for little or no premium compared to regular PECO price to compare.
There's a third step: eat less meat.
Eat less meat.
Tell me about it.
Indeed. Well, you might be surprised to know that livestock, the raising of livestock accounts for 18% of our total energy use here in the U.S. every year. And that it is a huge part of our energy budget and our carbon budget. I should also mention that livestock raising also takes up 70% of the drinkable water in the United States. So if you think about places that have drought conditions and all of the problems that creates, meat is a very heavy consumer of resources. So we're not suggesting that people should become vegetarians overnight. What we are suggesting is that you change 1 or 2 meals a week. Maybe go for meatless Mondays, which a lot of people advocate. Or another program is called Vegetarian Before 6. And then you eat meat at nighttime if you like. Also, there are differences among different kinds of meat as well. Beef is, not surprisingly, the most energy intensive meat of all to raise. And so, besides any other reasons one might have to reduce your consumption of beef, chicken and pork are much better for the environment, much less consumers of energy and resources.
David, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like that step because I love my meat, and I don't think I like your next one either. I like driving in for my commute to Philadelphia. Give us the next step about driving less.
That would be driving less. And again, you have to evaluate this as to how it fits in with your lifestyle. We are not asking people to make huge sacrifices because the reality is that most people won't. What we are asking is that people make small changes that don't affect their lifestyle, that don't inconvenience their families in any major way. The things that people can actually do on a day-to-day basis. So reducing your driving. Find ways to commute that are not by car. Try to use public transportation when you can. Now, in some places you can't. It may not be an option.
Or even carpool, right?
Or even carpool. That's one of the best because that's something that you can do on a routine basis. Combine trips when you have to go out shopping. Do all your shopping on one day. Try to get around to as many places as you can. Use the while you're out philosophy, and so that you don't keep driving out and back and out and back. And incidentally, when you combine trips, Your car also works better. It burns less fuel because it gets up to temperature and stays up to temperature. Cars use a lot more fuel when their engines are cold. So combining trips is a very useful strategy.
David, go into lighting a little bit.
Well, we've had a bit of a revolution in lighting over the past few years. First, we went from incandescent bulbs to compact fluorescents, which were a great saving in energy, but they weren't particularly attractive, and a lot of people didn't like them, and particularly the early ones were often not at all good to work with. But since then, we've gone into LEDs. Light-emitting diodes. And LEDs are really the wave of the future. They use much less energy than conventional incandescent bulbs, which comes back at us in two ways. It saves electricity, and in the summertime, it saves heat. So it saves air conditioning. You don't have to spend money on your air conditioning removing the heat that the light bulbs generate. And nowadays there are LEDs available for almost all common household usage. So you can get regular old light bulb shaped light bulbs for your lamps, and you can get reflector type light bulbs for your overhead ceiling fixtures. And these all use anywhere from 1/5, 1/6 the amount of energy that conventional bulbs use.
So it costs less over the lifetime?
Not only does it cost less over the lifetime, it costs less over a very short period of time. And to everybody who thinks that they will replace the incandescent bulbs when they wear out and they have to change them anyway, don't do that. Replace them now. An LED bulb will pay for itself in typically under 6 months. That is to say, it will pay its entire cost in under 6 months in electricity usage, and in many cases, only a couple of months.
So what you're saying is, I don't have to spend more to be good to the environment. I can save money and be energy efficient.
You bet. And those dollars will come back year after year. So you make a small change today, and it is a permanent change forever. And I will tell you that in my house, I changed a lot of things to become more energy efficient, but one of them was lighting. And I can now light my entire house, every light in the house, for about 200 watts, or roughly 3 or 4 of the old style incandescent bulbs.
Thank you for giving us that tip. And you have another one? Control your storm water, the 6th one. What's with that?
Well, now water is a whole nother problem, and it doesn't directly relate to energy consumption, but it is something that will make your house more livable. It will serve the public interest, and it will help us cope with climate change. And stormwater management is a big thing, actually. And if you've ever seen rivers of water running down the curb after a heavy rainfall, you may realize that it's a lot of water, a huge amount of water. And this comes from the fact that we pave a lot of surfaces. We have a lot of surfaces that don't absorb moisture. We have the roofs of our house, we have the roads, the sidewalks, the driveways, and so on. And every time we add a little bit of hard surface, we create that much more runoff that has to go somewhere. So, and that water will find its way into your basement if you don't deal with it properly. So it's important to make sure that you direct it properly, that you set up your yard so that water drains away from the house, but also to try to find ways to absorb it rather than just directing it into that gutter along the curb, because that water that goes down that goes down into the municipal storm drains eventually comes out into our streams where it causes flooding. So when you let it get off your property, you're just creating the problem for somebody else downstream from you. In this area, people who live along the Darby Creek, some of the other creeks, they're very familiar with this problem. And so the answer is to try to capture the storm water, let it get absorbed into the ground at your house, on your property, as much as you can. And there are a number of ways to do this, things like rain gardens, things like porous surfaces. And that's a whole subject that you could spend a lot of time on. But you know, it's worth doing. And if you're a gardener, if you are interested in improving both the appearance and the function of your property, it's worth looking into.
Never thought about that. Thanks for sharing that. And the 7th step, one that most people hear a lot about, recycling.
Yeah, recycling is a big story these days, particularly because the cost of recycling has gone up in many places due to world events. The Chinese are no longer willing to take our used paper. So a lot of things are changing regarding recycling, and it's important to stay up to date with what's happening in your community. And every community is different because different recycling companies have different equipment and different ways of handling it. But the most important thing about recycling is not recycling. It is the first of the 3 steps. It's reduce. Remember, it's reduce, reuse, and recycle. Reduce is the highest thing you can do. Let's say don't buy stuff. Don't buy as much stuff. Don't buy stuff with a lot of packaging. Make choices that will reduce the amount of waste that comes through your house. And that's true for stuff that's recyclable and for stuff that's not recyclable.
How can we be good at doing that? That sounds like a great idea, but what does that mean practically?
Well, for starters, have a cloth or solid grocery bag that you take with you every time you go to the grocery store. Keep a couple in your car. Get used to bringing them in so that you don't accumulate plastic bags. And plastic bags are one of the worst things because if they get into the regular recycling waste stream, that is to say if you have single stream recycling, they can clog up equipment and generally make life difficult for the recycler. And they make the whole load more expensive to process, so it increases the load on municipal budgets. So what you want to do when you do recycle is you want to recycle what is supposed to be recycled. Sort them per the rules. Be vigilant about what you put into recycling because a single plastic bag, for example, in a load of paper contaminates the whole load of paper. You really want to be very conscientious about what it is you recycle and how. But again, we really would rather see people try to avoid getting too much packaging in the first place, getting anything that has to be disposed of. And when you reduce the overall waste stream, you save money for everybody.
David, these are all very helpful, and we will all try to put these to use. And if people care more and they want to get involved, what can they do?
Well, there are a number of things that they can do. First of all, you can talk to your neighbors. You can tell people what you've done. If you've done something in your house that has really worked, brag about it. Tell people so that they can say, if he can do that, I can do it. One of our successes in one of our reasons for starting afewsteps.org was the feeling that here we are in a relatively affluent, very environmentally conscious area, Nether Providence and Swarthmore, and if we couldn't do it here, how are we going to do it anywhere? So raise consciousness in your neighborhood. Let people know that there are things that they can do. Second thing you can do is volunteer. Find a local organization that needs your help, and there are always some. And
is there one here locally, David, that people can contact?
Well, here, of course, in Nether Providence, there is afewsteps.org, and we invite you to check out our website, contact us for additional information. info@afewsteps.org.
Right below our screen, right?
Right below your screen. And but for people outside the area, join the local EAC. I can guarantee you that pretty much any municipality would like to have more volunteers on their Environmental Advisory Council.
Is this in just Pennsylvania or our friends watching across the country?
I would imagine that this is something that you can do almost anywhere. Most states have some kind of local environmental capability. And if you don't have one, well, it's time to start one.
And afewsteps.org, is that something for anyone in Delaware County? Can they help?
We certainly are always willing to accept help from anybody. Our service area, however, the area that we directly work in, is the Wallingford-Swarthmore School District.
But are there more groups throughout Delaware County doing the same thing afewsteps.org does?
There are groups everywhere. Out in the Westchester area, there is, I can't remember it exactly, but it's called Bluer. And they're one local organization I'm familiar with. But you'll find them all over. And if there isn't an organization in your area that is doing work that you think ought to be done, start one. Talk to your friends and neighbors and like-minded people, and you will find people in any community who are interested in energy efficiency and in sustainable living.
Good advice, David. Let's leave it there. And I want to thank you again for being a guest on PA Voter Information Network.
Thank you, Larry.
We have been here with David Director, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. If you like this episode, please share it with all the friends on your contact list and social media friends, and subscribe to PA Voter Information Network. We are signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.